Hello everyone, CMeeCraft here, and welcome back to A Light in the Dark. Day 5 choice. The lead up to this day has been, in many ways, eerily similar to the last playthrough. So I'm not sure what we do here. Do we go for an actual escape attempt, recognizing that, hey, things are going basically the same way as last time? Let's get out of here. I mean, let's be honest here. None of what we've done throughout this entire game, realistically, I think should affect whether or not she gets the money today. The big question, I guess, would be, have we, bonded enough for her to not pummel us to death? And I think that might be possible. Maybe. But I do not have any strong faith in that, so I guess we'll see on day 5. Choice. Amidst the fuzziness, I had a dream. It seemed to be an afternoon after school. My mother hugged me so tight that it made my arms uncomfortable. She kept crying and apologizing, wetting my face with endless teardrops. Why was she crying? I blankly looked out at my emotionally collapsed mother. Even the supposed familiar face appeared unfamiliar at that moment. Even though she was the one who betrayed Father. Even though she was the one who abandoned us. So why did she look so sad? I couldn't ask the simple question from my heart, yet a voice answered nonetheless. That's how the adult world works. That was a depressed yet still young voice. Within the darkness, I realized that was none other but my own voice. Day 5, morning. I woke up from my dream in shock, with the realization that my face was all wet. I couldn't recall the details of the dream itself, just the sense of bitterness weighing on my chest, rendering me breathless. There were few spots of white light from outside on the ground. It was so quiet I could hear my own heartbeat and the wind from the window. It was probably 4 or 5 a.m. I must have woken up early because I slept way too early the day before. I sat up to stretch my body, with the joints making clear cracking sounds. The last bit of my dream vanished with the morning light. I noticed the girl was leaning against the door with the blanket, with her knife next to her body. She had clearly fallen into a deep sleep. Worrying I might escape, she didn't even want to sleep in an actual bed. She had a slender body, clearly due to malnutrition, and the unkempt shoulder-length long hair that was tangled in multiple places. Her long eyebrows wrinkled together, as though she couldn't find peace even in the dream. Her long hair didn't seem very healthy, and even the color was not consistent. One probably couldn't care less about their hair when eating for the night alone was an uncertainty. She could be a beauty if she cleaned herself up and maybe put on some makeup. Carefully observing her asleep face, I almost forgot she was the kidnapper. Having a totally different family might have led to a totally different life for her. The world is not fair. I murmured what she had said, and wondered what emotion did she say that line with. Helplessness towards the society? Self-pity? Rage against the rich? I decided to stop thinking about it and focused on figuring out what to do. Just rest. Pull the rope is too slow. Yeah, I mean, maybe if it was an actual escape attempt, but no. There's no point in risking this much. They might just let me go after tonight. Hearing her voice, I was glad I didn't try anything crazy. I finally managed to let her guard drop on me. I just needed to be patient and wait for the opportunity. Good morning. What are you doing? She tiredly yawned and looked at me unpleasantly. Wait for breakfast. She clearly didn't buy it and walked to me with the knife. She checked if the rope was loose. You're free once your dad pays today. No funny business. Alright. Better keep your mouth shut and say nothing. Got it? You'll never make friends if you're this bossy, you know. I responded jokingly, but she didn't seem to appreciate it. She stared at me briefly and decided to say nothing more. She then walked to the bathroom to clean up. Unlikely as it might be, but if they were going to pay the ransom, they would let me go without me risking anything. The real problem would be if it was just to buy time. I wasn't sure what they would do if pushed it forward. Either I escaped on my own, or waited for the police's rescue. Well, I'd worry about that after tonight. So what now? Okay. What chatting options do we have? What do you plan to do with the little girl? You look really tired. Why do you owe so much money? What's next? Okay, pretty good. That's some decent stuff. Any interesting observables? Nothing new over here by the looks of things. What about the bathroom? I mean, nothing that particularly catches my eye. We'll start with some chats. Alright. We'll go with you look really tired. Show some concern for your well-being. You look pretty tired. None of your business. She replied sourly, yet the thick dark circles under her eyes said it all. Guarding me around the clock, plus the heavy mental stress had taken quite a toll on her body. No, that's just too smart, I told you it widespread. Get some rest if you're not feeling well. That shows concern for her well-being. Which I hope is good, which maybe translates to concern for my well-being, if she doesn't get the ransom. Get some rest if you aren't feeling well. Oh, how nice of you. Save your breath if you just want me to drop my guard. I can't move around tied up like this. Besides, I'll be out of here if you get the money today. I'm not so dumb as to risk my own life. You better remember that. She grunted and relaxed herself a little next to the wall. Okay. Not an entirely hostile interaction. I like the why do you owe so much money because that shows sympathy for her circumstances. I think that's the sort of thing that will speak to her, probably. Why do you owe that much money? My dad tried to start a company with someone, but that partner skipped town with all the money. That should be none of your business, though. You can just file for bankruptcy. He thought he could make up the loss if the business kept running, so he loaned a ton from a loan shark. He's no businessman, so the business naturally failed. He himself skipped town too, instead of making any money. But legally, that's his own debt. Legally? She cut me off with a grunt. She then asked with raised eyebrow. Do you think this is some entrance exam? What are the cops for if everyone follows the law? Why don't you get help from a social worker? Offer solutions? Why don't you seek help from a social worker? There must be some other way. For crying out loud! Yikes. Stop talking like a big shot. You think you're so smart and we're all just idiots. She suddenly kicked me, then coldly looked at me, struggling on the ground. Let me tell you this. Everything you learned from textbooks is completely useless. If 1/10 of that bullcrap was real, You really think I would be here? So shut your trap if you want to go home in one piece, understood? Note updated. The cause of her death was her father borrowing money from a loan shark. No one had heard from him after he skipped town. Okay. Again, I'm not really seeing anything particularly compelling to observe at the moment. I don't know, maybe there's something that I'm just really missing. Anything? And there's lots of things that could be observed, theoretically, but not imagining there's a ton that are terribly useful. So I guess we chat. That or rest? What do you plan to do with the little girl? I kind of like that one. It shows concern for the girl, for the sister. Yeah. That girl, what's your plan? Will you let her go home after getting the money? Who? The one calling you Big Sis? She was me, of course. I heard some games would manipulate underage girls and make them into a lackey to avoid arrest. It had only been a few days, but it was clear that little girl didn't know anything and only followed instructions from her Big Sis. She even looked worried when I was sick. It was just cruel to ask a kid of that age to be the scapegoat. Does her family know about this? Family? She frowned upon my question. There was some sort of communication barrier, as something seemed to miss. She has a family, right? Or did they abandon her? I am her family. I couldn't make sense of it at that moment. I just froze there, forgetting about what she even just said. Didn't she call me Big Sis? Wait, so you are really her sister? Like, sister? What else could it be? She impatiently crossed her arms across her chest and asked matter-of-factly. Ah, so... I thought you must be like her boss, or maybe some surrogate sister? But if that was the case, then her faith in Big Sis would make sense. They are blood relatives, after all. Nothing. Just that you don't look alike. Is that so? Oh. She suspiciously looked at me and burst into laughter upon realization. She saw through me. You thought she was like my lackey, and I would send her to jail in my place once I get the money? She was smiling, but there was no warmth in her expression. Are you kidding me? I'll take responsibility of my own actions. Not like you people that grab all the goodies and stuff others with shit. I just think your little sister is a good kid and would rather she doesn't get involved. Oh, so you actually care about us? She replied absent-mindedly, as though not believing one word I'd said. Note updated. That's generally good, right? So they're really siblings. No wonder she was this protective. She couldn't seem to calm down on the big day. Pacing around the room, she kept checking her phone screen. A sound from outside the door. Judging from the girl's shocked reaction, I wasn't imagining it. Who could that be? There were questions in my mind, but I was pressed against the wall before I could even open my mouth. The girl covered my mouth in panic and raised the knife against my neck. The blade was so close I wouldn't dare to move an inch. Don't move. Shut up! Not able to stop the trembling in her voice, she put more force into her hand. The sharp end would stab into the throat with a simple push. It didn't appear to be an accomplice, since it didn't appear there were any other residents. One wouldn't expect a sudden visit. The police, maybe? They might be able to find me through the surveillance camera or a cell phone signal, but could they really find us this quickly after only a few days? Following the train of thoughts, the steps got closer, then it stopped right before the door. There was no hesitation, straight to the destination. In other words, they knew there was someone here. As though waiting for something, there was no sound outside the door. No one seemed to want to break this silence. Her tense right hand trembled a little, and I could see the sweat dripping down the cheek. "Big sis?" The little girl's voice came through the door. She breathed out heavily and dropped her arms as though exhausted. She opened the door to greet the little girl, who was carrying a bag, and looked at her big sis innocently. "What are you doing? Do you know how dangerous it is? If you didn't make a sound, I might have attacked you." "Sorry." It was rare to see her getting mad at the little girl, who lowered her head apologetically. Through the door I could see the view of the stairs. The red armrest and grey wall were the common sight of an old apartment. "Whatever, as long as it's not the cop." "Wait, didn't I tell you not to come? What happened? Who asked you to come here?" She raised her head suddenly and started to shake the little girl's shoulder with a nervous expression. "No one." "Then why did you?" "I just want to be with Big Sis." Her direct response rendered the girl speechless, who became lost in thought while rubbing the little girl's head. The little girl's motive was simple. She just wanted to be with her big sis. But her sister had more to consider. How to avoid police pursuit, what to do after getting the money. It was difficult, as it was, to escape on her own, let alone taking care of the little girl. "Why did you bring so many things?" Deciding to let it go, she took the plastic bag. "Miss Wang asked me to bring them over. She said they were left over." "She knows?" "I don't know. She just said you should take care of yourself and let her know if you need any help." She seemed to lose her usual cool, with her head lowered depressingly. "Big sis?" "Huh?" "Miss Wang seems worried about you." Looking at the hesitating little girl, she bit her lips and finally spoke after a while. "Don't worry, it would be all over soon." She managed to smile while rubbing the little girl's hair. Noticing the name that was brought up, who was this Miss Wang they were talking about? I'll stay quiet. I memorized the name secretly. It could be the clue to find the mastermind. Because I don't ask this question in mixed company. Because the older girl clearly is not going to answer it, right? And the younger girl, I can potentially ask her later on. She might answer it, but if she sees the older girl explicitly not answer it, then that would make her probably less likely to give me an answer. That might be shaky logic, but it's logic. Whatever, it might be for the best. She passed the knife to the little girl and started to leave the room with the cell phone impatiently. "Keep an eye on him for me. I'm going to give a call and find out what's going on." I didn't pick up the phone. She impatiently mumbled and was about to step out of the room. Calling whom? What part of shut up don't you understand? She coldly stared at me. It's none of your business, got it? Just eat the bread if you're hungry. There's also enough water. I'll be back soon, so don't you think about untying yourself. Hey, what if there is a fire? Then you will be burned to death. I don't care as long as she escapes. Fighting for my privilege only got me a merciless look, with the little girl quietly nodding on the side. I will remind you again, no funny business. What else can I do, barbecue? She wanted to say something while staring at me, but eventually she just grunted and left. The door closed and there were only me and the little girl. We'd learn if the ransom really arrived tonight or not. They'd only keep a closer eye on me if the negotiation continued. If I wanted to run, now would be the best chance. The little girl had less strength than her sister, nor was as on guard of me as she used to. All these choices were like gambling. You never knew what would be your next card. The only thing that mattered was that you only had one chance to bid. So what now? Okay, first of all, I need new observations. There is, of course, the origamis, obviously. The lamp somehow looks different to me right now. Sure, it's nothing, though. So I think the origamis is a no-brainer, right? Well, first, before we go through with that, we should see what the chatting options are. Okay. Yeah, exactly 3 things to do? Perfect. Let's observe those origamis first, then. Colored paper and origami cranes are scattered on the ground. All these clean folding lines are from the same hands of the young girl. That wasn't much. Okay. We'll chat then. We'll start with a thank you. Alright, I almost forgot to thank you. Why are you thanking me? When I was sick a few days ago, weren't you the one that asked her to buy me some medicine? No, because this would have helped you anyway. She awkwardly avoided my gaze, as though admitting that helping me was something to be embarrassed about. I understood her conflicted mind. To her, my gratitude might not be praise, but criticism. Okay, and another chat, I suppose, with the young girl. About Miss Wang. That Miss Wang you just mentioned. She was about to talk before immediately shutting her mouth, still remembering her big sis' words. I had to find another way to make her disclose it. She's the real culprit, right? I think that... I think we gotta be aggressive here. She's the real culprit, right? She tilted her head in confusion, not knowing what I was talking about. Damn, I need to somehow cover it up. What I mean is that she... I don't know. Realizing my intention, she replied calmly, but with a determined face. Well... It was the 5th day of my kidnapped life. I started to get really tired of the unchanged room. I mean, really, I think the person... I think the person we really need to be, worrying about is, like Mr. Ken person, right? Not sure where it's written on here. Somewhere. Yeah, Mr. Ken. If we can figure out more about him, that might help us. I don't know. It was the 5th day of my kidnapped life. I started to get really tired of the unchanged room. Whether it was the afternoon sunlight, the reflection in the window, or the air mixed with cigarette and mold smell. I didn't have an enlightening experience, I just wanted to get out of this goddamn place. What's that? Noticing the bag in her hand, I asked out of curiosity. Colored paper? She took out piles of colored paper. The rainbow color really stood out in the depressingly gray room. After a few slick movements, she had nimbly made a small paper crane out of it. She moved on to the next paper upon completion, and another one was completed less than a minute. A paper crane?
Yes, they buy finished paper cranes from us.
Oh, domestic OEM. I heard some factories will outsource sewing and packaging to housewives and paid for quantity upon completion. Despite the low pay, many people took on such jobs for the convenience and flexible hours.
I wanted to help and make some more money so we could pay up the debt sooner.
She was still working while talking, but it wasn't long before there was a small pile. It didn't appear to be her first time. She must have been doing this for a while now. How's the payment? How much each?
800 Taiwan dollars for 1,000. More virgins.
800 per 1,000 cranes? That's less than $1 each. Even if it took only a minute to make one, it would still take 15 hours. That's less than 100 per hour salary. Less than I expected. That's not much. Isn't this manual labor?
Don't know. They say people don't buy paper crane anymore. I guess we all prefer new things.
If you were $1 million in debt, even a century would not be enough, let alone the interest. There was no foreseeable hope. No wonder they rather took the risk and kidnapped me. A horse cannot gain weight if not fed with extra fodder during the night. A man cannot become wealthy without earnings apart from his regular pays. Illegal methods are really the only option to make money in the short term without capital. Have you tried jobs with better pay? Like restaurants?
Big Sis told me to stay away from those.
She interrupted me resentfully, clearly not happy about it. Confused by her reaction, I tried to explain myself, then I noticed how she was suppressing her emotion by biting the lips. Also, I'm pretty sure this is new. Restaurants, jobs with better pay. It only took me seconds before I realized what she didn't say. I averted my gaze apologetically. Sorry, I didn't mean to. She quietly lowered her gaze, but her expression did lighten up a little. How much do you owe? Or maybe the restaurant thing was not new, I don't know.
I know that no matter how many I make, it will still not be enough.
Guessing what I had in mind, she quietly resumed working.
But this is the only way I could help Big Sis.
She knew this little money was inconsequential. She knew what she was doing was illegal. Yet she could only do what she could, even if it was as pointless as filling the ocean with rocks. Do you know the story of the paper crane? I remembered the bedtime story while looking at the paper crane in her hand.
If you fold 1,000 paper crane, you can make a wish.
So you do know.
Big Sis told me that, but it was a lie. If all it takes is 1,000 cranes, everyone wouldn't need to work so hard.
What an unimaginative way to put it. But I guess they didn't have time for romantic fantasy. How ironic that the dream-fulfilling paper cranes were made by people without them. I observed her side face with unease. She didn't appear to have much emotion, just as quiet as a pond in fall. The siblings had such drastically different personalities. In contrast to her big sis, anger, she just accepted it without second word. She cared about her big sis' happiness and her current life more than fairness. I didn't know how to respond, so I changed the subject. If you can have a wish, what would it be?
It would not come true anyway.
That's why I said if. She seemed to take my random question seriously and started to contemplate seriously.
to help the family pay the debts. I hope no one will come for us. I wish Big Sis can find a happier and better job.
Oi, getting a little greedy there. Here.
You asked me to.
I don't listen to you if you ask for too many things, you know. She got interrupted by me and started to smile sadly. A smile more heartbreaking than crying.
Well, that would come true anyway.
I tried to comfort her, but couldn't find the words. I resented myself for even bringing this up in the first place. Alright, I'm fairly certain that was some different dialogue than we had previously, so that kind of gets my hopes up a bit. Maybe? Looking out the window, it was dusk already, and the sun was almost gone. I wasn't sure if they had any luck with the ransom. Day 5, night. Moment of truth. There was quite an assortment of bread. I had the bread she brought back for dinner. I picked the richer looking pork floss combo, and it tasted better than I expected. I used to only buy from the bakery that made fresh and organic bread. The price almost doubled, but the taste wasn't really that different. The economic equality used to be just some fancy catchphrase, and I never truly understood the meaning of that till now. It is unfairness in the extreme. Even if giving the same amount of effort, they would never have the same life as me. Not because of my talent, but simply because I was born to a rich family. Some people choose work, study, and were already hundreds of thousands in debt upon graduation, while others never needed to worry about food or clothes and already had $1 million Taiwan dollars in business capital from their parents. Eventually these people would compete fairly in the same society. It's ridiculous, really, yet there's nothing we can do about it. We are powerless to the system. The world isn't fair. Thus why she was thus helpless. It was getting dark and there was no news of her big sis. I didn't know if she got the money. I started to worry. I didn't really think they would pay, but I also hoped this fiasco could end on a peaceful note. If they couldn't get the money... All these thoughts intertwined in my mind. The little sis just ate the various breads quietly, not noticing my thoughts. You like sweets? She moved on to egg tart after finishing the donut, neither of them fitting for a proper meal. She quietly put her hand away, like a child that got caught of doing naughty things. I like sweets too.
Really?
She looked at me with widened eyes, beaming curiosity. The innocence in her expression made one question her age. She looked like a middle schooler, yet her timid personality and over-reliance on her sister seemed to be more like an elementary school kid. Yeah, I like cookies, cakes, and ice cream.
Chocolate?
Chocolate is nice, but I prefer those with higher percent of cocoa, otherwise it is too sweet for me. Not really understanding it, she just nodded. She paused the work and grabbed a magazine from the book pile and flipped through the pages before putting it before me. It was a professional magazine on desserts. There are photos of famous bakery and detail analysis on each of them. I could see her notes on some pages, including a white chocolate cake that got specially circled. The pure white cake was decorated with berries and covered in cocoa powder. The elaborate garnish made it more like an artwork than pastry.
Have you tried this?
Nope, I seldom try out a particular store. I only visited a few that I know about. Sometimes people would give us some as gifts, but I rarely had a taste of those since I didn't visit home frequently. Speaking of which, white chocolate is actually not chocolate.
Why is that?
It is white because there is no cocoa powder. Do you know it is made of cocoa butter and milk solid?
Oh,
She tilted her head and blinked a few times out of confusion.
so what's the difference?
Different ingredients. I heard white chocolate is not as healthy.
But it tastes good.
Can't argue with that. The difference between us was never clear. Comparing to my health concerns, she cared more about the taste. I flipped through the magazine with one hand. There were more pages with notes. I recalled myself doing the same thing on travel guidebook before a trip. Every stroke of the pen was filled with anticipation. You were able to try them, huh? She lowered her head and I heard her response in a tiny voice.
Big sis said she won't bring me there.
I was getting a little tired of her constant mentioning of Big Sis, however she only had her Big Sis to rely on. She couldn't go to school and had to become independent way before others. It just wasn't fair to call her ignorant. I sighed. My heart always felt heavy when talking to her. Sometimes I rather she was as angry as her sister. At least I wouldn't feel as guilty that way. The magazine was the manifestation of her dream. Desserts, cake, and chocolate. From my perspective, these dreams would never come true. Even if she got the money, I don't think she'd be able to bring you on a foodie tour. She looked at me with an expression on the verge of tears. Seeing her depressed expression, I swallowed the words I was about to say and regret the fact I might have gone too far. I wanted to let her see the reality, but I didn't want to hurt her either. With that said, there could be a chance for that in the future.
Really?
Yep. I repeated myself to give her confidence. A shaky light in the dark lightened up her young face, which was filled with unease and sadness. She knew what her sister was doing. That very realization was what shaped her suffering. But she didn't have a choice. Could she stop her sister and convince her to focus on a proper job instead of kidnapping? There's obviously no way. Even an adult would not be able to give an answer, let alone a kid like her. She was not to be blamed here. The ones responsible were her parents, her guardian, or even her big sis. My thoughts were interrupted by the sound. She was back. Oh, please, let things work out this time. Immediately, there were countless thoughts in my mind, and I realized I had no time to hesitate. The footsteps were getting closer, and my heart beat faster. I clenched, and then let go of my hands in the pocket. The palms were drenched in sweat. Maybe, just maybe, if she did get the ransom, then it would be all over when she got here. No one would get hurt, they could restart their life. A happy ending, like all fairy tales. No matter how unlikely it was, I wanted to believe that slight chance was my last chance of escape as the wager. I seldom gamble on anything, and this would be the only time I truly hoped to win. I'm not even sure this is a good opportunity for escape. I mean, I'm still tied. And no weapon. And she's right there. Like, honestly, I don't even think escape would work under this particular set of circumstances. Granted, the fact that the other option is labeled give up does seem kind of bad. The girl entered the room with an icy expression. She had none of her usual cool anymore. Her messy hair spread across her shoulders, and I could see nothing but rage and despair in her eyes. I knew the answer without asking.
Big sis?
Step aside. The little girl tried nervously to get closer, but only got shoved aside by her big sis, who walked towards me with big steps. Out of nowhere, a kick landed on my stomach and made me curl up in pain. Before I could react, a myriad of punches landed on me.
Big sis? Not again.
Shut up and step aside. The little girl tried to pull her away, but got scared, motionless by her sister's yelling.
All of you are the same! All of you!
She yelled at me hysterically, as though trying to vent all her rage upon me. I managed to cover my head with my hands, trying to shield my crucial parts. There was a taste of blood in my mouth. My body spasmed uncontrollably, and even coughing up gastric juice didn't alleviate the sense of nausea.
Every single time! Every time! Every effing time! I just want a normal life. Why do you have to force me? What do you want from me?
The yelling and the crying, the initial burning pain seemed to gradually disappear. All the noise mixed into one everlasting sound in my ear, as though from somewhere far, far away. I naively thought it would work out. I gave up my chance like a coward, believing they would pay. I knew it from the very beginning. I gave up my chance of escape to embrace an unrealistic hope. And here I was. 1:S11 3/2? What is that?
Big sis, why? You said it'd be alright.
As though hearing her sister for the first time, the girl dropped her fist and faced the crying little girl. Her clenched fists were still trembling. Her standing posture appeared extremely lonely.
Don't cry.
I could hear her choking up, and there were tears in her eyes, but she stubbornly refused to let them drop.
I won't cry either.
She bit her lips and said every word forcefully.
I will not cry, no matter what. I already knew it would be like this. I knew no one would believe me, no matter what I did. From their perspective, we should all just go to hell. Or just some social problem. We should all just die. Just because we're poor and can't go to school. Why don't they just lock up everyone who has less than 20K in income? Everyone who doesn't have a middle school diploma should just get executed. What do they call us? Backup criminals? Social time bombs? Big sis, listen to me. No one will believe us. No one will help us. All we have is ourselves. Got it?
It was a declaration and accusation both. A yell straight from her soul's deepest place. She unclenched her fist, the response of blood on her gloves, and she just laughed, ignoring that.
I know this goddamn world isn't fair.
Hearing the familiar words, I finally understood the emotion behind them. It was neither helplessness nor acceptance, but rage, and struggling against reality. Well, this is going depressingly like last time. I'm not even sure if anything we do on day 6 actually matters. But we'll go for it anyways. I hope to see you then. Till then, I've been CMeeCraft, and I'll catch you in the next episode. Goodbye.